Others were not. He learned a good deal.
Well, I have an extensive, just an incredible series of photos that show what the right side of that plane, the wing, the inner portion of the center wing tank, what it originally looked like when it came into the hangar. It was swept up into the air. By measurement, it had been blown all the way from the floor of that center wing tank all the way up into the passenger cabin. But they couldn't live with that because you must have an external force coming into the airplane, blowing it upwards and in. Now, that's not a mechanical, that's something from outside. So they cut off the upward bending metal, this huge, enormous piece, put it down into the bottom of the center wing tank and mashed it down so that instead of having been blown upwards, it was mashed down because a mechanical would have blown that same piece down instead of up.
B-3 rotated forward. It impacted another stiffener.
Here, a senior investigator stands on the altered floor of the center wing tank, pointing up towards a tiny alleged sign of mechanical failure.
The aft side of the front spar just in front of this. After spanwise beam 3 is separated across the top, pressure behind...
The next scene will show where his foot would have been had this piece not been altered, and how the pre-altered evidence confirms the path of a missile warhead blast. The circled area shows what an honest reconstruction of the center wing tank floor would have looked like. The investigator would have been standing about 7 feet above where we saw him. A missile warhead blast would have caused this. Someone altered the evidence.
That's a criminal act. It's a series of criminal acts. It's a conspiracy.
August 22nd, 2000, the day of the Sunshine hearing, I'm walking down Pennsylvania Avenue, and it came over me that this is the first time in my lifetime that I've mistrusted my government.
Whether the trigger was pulled by the United States or NATO or whether it was a terrorist act is irrelevant at this point. What is relevant is that the government knew. They knew who pulled the trigger, and they've lied about it and covered it up.
Let me present a likely scenario. Within hours of the crash, for reasons unknown, a decision was made at or near the top to contain any reports of a missile strike. To assure cooperation, participants may well have been told it was a matter of highest national security. Once made, this decision could not be taken back. Not in this White House, not in an election year. In small, awkward steps, it was likely decided that the evidence would be tailored to fit the safest political outcome, a mechanical failure. But a spontaneous explosion of this type and violence has never happened before, ever, and did not happen on July 17th. What did happen? Here is our best fact-based estimate. Yes, Flight 800 did take off from JFK at 8:19 and head east along the Long Island shore. About 12 minutes later, a boater sees a missile rise up off the horizon and loses it behind the beach house. Mike Wire, a few hundred yards to the east on Beach Lane Bridge, picks the missile up as it rises above that house and watches it head south away from shore, now zigzagging as it tries to acquire its target. Lisa Perry and Paul Angelides pick up the same missile, now high in the sky. So does Air National Guard pilot Major Fritz Meyer. Meanwhile, Dwight Brumley, a senior Navy NCO on board U.S. Air Flight 217, watches a second missile rise up towards his plane, arc over and head to the north. An unidentified ship now boldly flees the scene, perhaps having launched that very missile. From a school parking lot on Long Island, witness 649 sees the same missile streak up vertically and then starts zigzagging in pursuit of its target. At 8:31, the southbound missile locks into its target and blasts into the underside of the nose. The northbound missile blasts into the belly of the plane just 9/10 of a second later. It is that first blast that blows the nose 15 degrees to the right and shoots debris a mile in the same direction. Eyewitnesses up and down the coast of Long Island watch helplessly as this tragedy unfolds in front of them. As to the ship, it never looks back. Lisa Perry sees it all.
And the other one comes up from underneath the bottom of the plane. It's in the shadow of the plane, and I think it's going to thread it like right through the middle of the head of the plane, and then it's going to thread it like a needle. And then the plane just stops. It's hanging in the sky, and it looks just like a toy hanging there just in the sky. And at that point, it had been kind of flat. And then it goes down, and then I see along the side of the plane, and then there's fractures right on the plane itself. There's just spaces on the plane. And then it explodes, and it goes sideways.
It is the second missile that rips through the center wing tank and transforms the fuel into a volatile mist. Now noseless Flight 800 pitches backward and the fuel erupts, but this plane has nowhere to go but down.
About 2.5 seconds after that, further to the left, and again slightly lower, I saw what I'm not certain was either one or two nearly concentric, nearly coincidental explosions. Yellow light, ta-da! From that point immediately emanated the fireball, the third explosion. The first two appeared to be high velocity. The last one was a low velocity petrochemical explosion, and it grew into this huge fireball, which then began to fall towards the ocean, moving to my left as it fell.
9 o'clock position, it looked like an explosion of some sort, about maybe 6 miles out from my 9 o'clock position. Explosion 6 miles out at your 9 o'clock position. Thank you very much, sir.
There is no 3,000-foot ascent to deceive the witnesses, nothing like it. TWA Flight 800 immediately begins its slow, oddly graceful descent into the sea, breaking up as it descends, transforming itself in those sad final seconds from a horror into a tragedy that will soon resonate in 1,000 scenes of intense personal sorrow throughout the world.
But the main thing that hit me then was anger and a promise. I said, who did this to you? And I would find out who did that to him.
There is no bringing these good folks back, but it is still possible to resurrect the truth. Still possible to restore the rule of law. Still possible to redeem the soul of a nation that very nearly lost it.